Just sort of do a little bit of a workshop tour here. What you see on the wall is a rod turner. Now this is the reason why you guys at home never get a decent finish when you do a rod ring replacement, because what we use is a 2-pack adhesive. Get proper high build. I've come across people using this instant set 20-minute Aral dies which are clear. Buy it cheap, epoxy resin in excess, £1. Great, you put it on, it looks nice, give it about a month, it goes yellow and starts to crack. But it does have the benefit of emergency repair setting in 20 minutes. The problem with proper high build is it will take anything up to 6 hours before it stops flowing. So the only way to get a decent finish is to have the rods continuously turning for the 6 hours, which you are not going to do sitting at home doing it. This gives you a perfect finish, absolutely even, no brush strokes, no bubbles in it, absolutely spot on finish. The only problem is it's not something you're going to buy for doing your home rod repairs. Even a single motorised rod turner of any quality, buy them from Pack Bay, Guides and Blanks website, I'll put the link in the description, going to cost you £60 or £70. Right, the other gadget we have here is a very nice rod turning jig. Show you later on how we actually do a rod up and put a lean on. And here we have a motor. You can actually clamp the rod in there, press a little pedal like you would with a sewing machine thing, spins the rod up, rod rests in the actual chucks here, and you've got like 6 to 8 foot length here for it to rest in. Rod sits in there, and you can take. To be honest, whilst it is powered, I only tend to use the power if I'm doing a very long wrapping or a very complicated one, because quite honestly, for doing the odd ring, you've got to start it manually, you've got to do the finishing manually. I can spin it around with my fingers just as quick, but it does get a nice finish and keeps the right tension. I will do a video later on showing the simple stuff you can boost for DIY to make your own, which doesn't cost the silly money that this actual setup will cost you. Right, little thought on how to replace a rod ring. Saw a thing on YouTube, some gormless kid was showing how to remove the stuff using a Dremel. Brilliant idea, high speed cutter, one slip, you just destroyed the blank. Totally unnecessary. Easy way to remove a ring. Cigarette lighter, light it up, heat the whip in just a few seconds, softens the 2-pack epoxy, sharp knife, slide it through. If you've got tails and that in the whipping, don't go as far as the tails. That's the hardest part to copy and get looking exactly like original, so don't get rid of the originals. Take sharp knife, peel the whipping off, do the same at the other side. A little bit of heat. Take your knife, always cut away from you, turn your fingers that way, loosen it up, take the ring, push firm, push, ring, in the bin. Strip that off, again heat, softens the epoxy that's on there, sharp knife, clean it off, try not to go through any paint that's on there. Strip it off nice and clean, pull out the tags, clean it off, same at the other side, get rid of all the old packs, take it just to the original where you got the tails, so you left a little bit of whipping, get rid of all the old glue, otherwise you never get a neat job. Sharp knives are essential. Clean it off, bit of cloth. When you rub it, be careful of any carbon splinters, they go in your fingers, definitely hurt. Trim back any little bits of the old whipping that's still standing up, otherwise you've only got to do them later. Trimmed off, ready to go. Next step, get the ring you're going to replace, check the ends of it, there and there. If there's a big step in it or a big lump, get a file or a little mini grinder, grind it down so you've got a really sharp point there, makes it easy to put the line on. Position it on the rod, Bear in mind, single leg always points towards the top of the rod. Position it in line with other rings on the rod or any decals on the rod. Nothing worse than looking down the rod and seeing the rings at a slight angle to the decals of the rest of it. Fix on a little bit of masking tape like that, holds it in place. Drop it in the rollers. Now I've got this very flash bench which actually has a power roller. I can put it in, press a pedal, spins the line up, makes it easy. You don't actually need it. Another video I'll be doing a nice bit of kit you can make for DIY to do this. The time I'll show you how to do it. Put a line over the top, turn it away from you, go over the line, back under, back over the line to trap the line. And once you've got it trapped, tighten this up. Bit of credit card, easiest way to pack it up. Get it all nicely lined up. Start neatly or finish neatly. Pack it with the card. Get it on. Keep tension on it. And my machine will self-track, which means the line goes straight down. DIY piece of kit, you're probably going to have to do it manually. Wrap it round, down to the end. Just keep a check on it, self-tracking does jump sometimes. Now when you come to the foot, it slides off the end of the foot and leaves the silver of the foot. Very simple, go back over it. One of the little turns that have already gone will hold it in place and you lose the actual silver of the foot. Put it round, you now need a short length of line, doubled over, slipped underneath, carry on turning until you get to the end. Keep going. Snip it off. Drop it through. Pull it back out. Now when you cut it off, take the razor blade, don't cut it, put the blade against it, pull it against the blade. Sharp edge of the blade helps. It will cut and spring back in. Spoon handle, metal bar, and to my scissors I use, just rub it down, gets rid of all the little gaps. You have a little crease there where the original's been. A little bit of felt tip pen just cleans that up before you varnish it. And that way we retain the original tails and whipping. Job done. Do the same the other end. Varnish it high build. Another move. Right, you've got your rod all done, you put your ring on, you've got your whipping. The next stage is to put the high build on. Now, mix a high build, little plastic pots, buy them from like Guides and Blanks or anywhere like that, cost an absolute fortune. Go down the pound shop, you get 20 for £1. When you mix your high build, it's a mixture of a resin and a hardener. First tip is you keep the resin at one end of the bench, keep the hardener at the other end of the bench, no risk of any cross contamination and ending up with a whole lot going off. Measure the quantities carefully, use the syringes provided with the kits. Don't try to guess it, you get a much better finish by using exactly the same quantity of hardener as resin. Measure it off, put the resin in, take a cloth, clean all the residue off your syringe, put that at the end of the bench where the resin goes. Don't accidentally end up shoving that in the hardener or vice versa. Take your hardener, measure off exactly the same quantity of hardener, use resin, stand with a syringe, pull it out, push it back down to get the air bubbles out, mix it in, clean off the syringe, hand to the bench, put the lid on the hard resins. These are expensive items, you don't want to knock it over, it makes a heck of a mess, waste it. I personally never use the actual paintbrush. What I do is a paintbrush, but it's one which gone hard. Use the end of the brush, mix the resin nice and carefully together, make sure you've got a good mix, any resin or hardness on the side of the pot, make sure it's scraped down, get it mixed nicely, let it settle for a few seconds so you get the bubbles out. It's now ready to use. Next stage, we're going to apply it to the rod. I've actually just moved the rod up a little bit higher on the turner now, because this is a large 40mm ring and it was just knocking on one of the brackets for when I do quiver tips and short rods, which you may have seen every now and again. As the rod went round, it went boop, boop. It was a bit of a nuisance, so I've moved it up to the next spot up where it's well clear. Again, same procedure for the other ring. Hold the pot underneath it so any drips fall in the pot rather than make a mess on the bench. Saves you cleaning up later. Make sure you get some resin underneath the foot of the ring just to seal it off. Just let it run under there. Nothing worse, you get a nice job and shortly later you end up with the ring going rusty. Looks messy, then when it goes rusty the metal swells, whipping comes apart, ring falls off, got to do the job again. You do a job properly, do it once. Only needed time you need to do it again, as if you break the ring. Most rings get broken because of people doing silly things like standing on them, winding clips and tags and whatnot through rings, and it pulls the inserts out. We've all done it, particularly a silly thing to do, but we all do it. You pack it up in a hurry, you wind the little clip you left on the line back through the rod rings, click, 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 click through the rings. Next time you take the rod out, you notice that your line keeps breaking, and you've got a little tiny hairline crack, especially with the modern ceramic rings, tiny hairline crack in the ring, virtually invisible, but your line runs against it. It's like running against a razor blade and your line keeps snapping. So if you're getting line snapping, first thing to do is check your ring. Start at the tip ring, usual culprit. Other tip is, if you don't mix enough of your high build, do not try to mix a bit extra and mix it in by adding a bit of extra resin, a bit of extra hardener to the pot. You end up with it cracking because one lot starts drying and hardening quicker than the other. If you haven't mixed enough, work with what you've got. Mix a completely fresh batch separately, and then it all hardens at the same time. Don't get taken in with this idea of I don't need to have a turner, I'll get this fast fitting epoxy resin, goes off in 20 minutes, costs you £1 from in excess of somewhere. It's great for sticking things. You can do a rod ring with it, looks beautiful when it's done. 20 minutes later you can go fishing with the rod, it's all set. About a month later it all goes yellow and starts cracking because it just does not have any sort of UV resistance in it. Because then it's a glue, it's not designed to be exposed to the sunlight, it's designed to stick two things together which will actually cover it up. Now again, I don't know if you can see that a little bit better from this angle, you're actually putting the stick in the resin, lifting it away, so you've actually got a gap between the actual rod itself and the stick. It's just lifting the resin and letting it fall back as a curtain, which spreads it out to an even thickness along the length, and the turning process spreads it to an even thickness going round. This is why you guys never get a professional finish at home, because you're not going to sit there turning a rod for 6 hours. There you go, perfect match to the original whipping, perfect match to the gloss of the high build. And that'll just sit there for, well, I'll probably leave it, switch it off in the morning, it's doing no harm. Little tiny motor uses tiny amount of electric. Job done. Little tip here, if you've got a few really bad scratches on a rod blank, as we actually have on this one, which is a bit of scrap I found in the workshop just to show you, like here. Right, if you take your leftover high build, put your finger in it, and when you get to the scratches, rub the high build just over the scratches like that, massage it in with the tip of your finger. Thing is, the warmth in your finger actually softens the high build, makes it flow better and much thinner. Rub it in where the scratches are like that. There you go. Lay it off in the one direction, always with paints, by finishing off like that. There you go. Scratch is completely gone, and there are some quite deep gouges and scratches I just did with the edge of a razor blade on this bit of scrap rod, just to show you how easy it is. You can turn a rather tatty looking old rod to looking absolutely pristine and new. Especially where you have a rod where the actual graphics and all that maybe have got a bit faded with age and a bit sort of dull. Thin, very thin layer of hybrid on that brings them up sparkling and new looking. Good tip to smarten up your old rod.